Have you ever noticed how someone slowly disappears from your life? No fight, no dramatic goodbye, just silence. Most people assume the same thing. They stopped caring. But psychology tells a different story. When someone stops reaching out, it's rarely sudden. It's rarely cold-hearted. And it's almost never because they simply don't care anymore. More often, it's emotional exhaustion. Here are 5 deep psychological reasons why people stop reaching out. First, emotional burnout from one-sided effort. In the beginning, it doesn't bother you. You're the one who texts first. You're the one who checks in. You're the one keeping the connection alive. You tell yourself it's fine, that this is just how relationships work. But over time, something changes. Psychologists describe this as emotional labor imbalance, when one person carries most of the effort in maintaining a relationship. Research shows that consistently giving without receiving equal care slowly drains emotional energy and self-worth. Not dramatically, but quietly. Human beings naturally track emotional investment, not because we're selfish, but because our brains are wired for balance. When effort isn't reciprocated, the mind begins to register stress. Eventually, reaching out doesn't feel warm anymore. It feels heavy. And one day, you stop. Not because you don't care, but because caring alone became too expensive. Second, the pain of feeling invisible. There's a unique kind of pain in realizing your absence changes nothing. When you pull back slightly and no one asks why. When you go quiet and no one notices. Psychological research on social rejection shows that silence is often interpreted by the brain as exclusion. Even if the other person didn't mean harm, the mind fills the gap with self-doubt. Did I matter? Was I ever important? Studies on ghosting reveal that unanswered effort can trigger the same neural pathways as physical pain. That's how deeply we're wired for connection. So eventually, the person who kept trying learns something protective. It hurts less to disappear than to feel invisible. Third, anxiety, avoidance, and emotional overload. Not all distance is indifference. Sometimes it's anxiety. For some people, communication itself feels overwhelming. Social anxiety, low self-esteem, and fear of saying the wrong thing can make even simple messages feel stressful. Attachment theory explains this well. People with avoidant tendencies often crave connection, but emotional closeness activates their nervous system. When feelings intensify, their instinct isn't to lean in, it's to shut down. From the outside, it looks like they stop caring. On the inside, they're overstimulated, anxious, and trying to regulate emotions they don't fully understand. Silence becomes protection, not rejection. Fourth, lack of emotional language. Some people don't leave because they want to. They leave because they don't know how to explain what they're feeling. Research on communication breakdown shows that many individuals avoid difficult conversations simply because they lack the emotional vocabulary to express themselves. They don't know how to say, "I'm overwhelmed. I need space. I feel disconnected. I'm struggling." So instead of risking conflict or vulnerability, they withdraw. It's not always maturity. It's not always fair, but it's often fear. When someone doesn't know how to communicate discomfort, silence becomes their coping strategy. Fifth, choosing boundaries and self-respect. This is the hardest truth. Sometimes people stop reaching out because they finally choose themselves. Psychology tells us that when our core needs, feeling valued, respected, and emotionally safe, aren't met, we naturally disengage to protect our well-being. This isn't selfishness. It's self-preservation. At some point, chasing effort feels humiliating. Explaining yourself feels exhausting. And hoping for reciprocity feels naive. So instead of begging for attention, they choose dignity. Instead of overgiving, they step back. Instead of proving their worth, they protect it. That's not bitterness. That's growth. If you've ever stopped reaching out, hear this clearly. You are not cold. You are not broken. You are not unworthy of love. Sometimes silence isn't about giving up on others. It's about finally listening to yourself. Your nervous system has limits. Your heart has boundaries. Your energy deserves protection. The world may not always notice your absence. Some people may never meet you halfway, but that does not reduce your value. Your ability to care deeply is a strength, not a weakness. And one day, the people who truly belong in your life will recognize that effort and return it without you having to chase it. Until then, let your silence be a sanctuary, a place to recharge, to reflect, to rebuild. Because choosing yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. It is healthy. And sometimes, it is the bravest thing you can do.